Follow that, Pat. Okay, here we go. So when I first moved here last spring of 2013, I was told that almost everybody started a garden around May long weekend, that it was kind of a tradition. Is that true? Is that true? Okay, yeah. You know, but I come from California, so I didn't really understand it. I mean, like, why do you have to have, like, a special day to plant, right? Doesn't Mother Nature take care of this, right? But then I went through a Calgary winter. And the seemingly endless white landscape that went on for a really long time. And so now I get it, right? So I'm loving seeing everybody's gardens and their flower baskets on their patios and the flower patches that are everywhere and the wildflowers and everything. I love it. Yes, Mother Nature is taking care of it for us, and we get the opportunity to participate by moving our feet. So for those of you who are following that tradition of planting your gardens in the springtime, I say thank you to you. And which brings me, how about that, to my topic, which is how does your garden grow? And of course, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the garden of our minds, right? I'm talking about the garden of our consciousness, which also equates to the garden of our lives. Because what goes on in our minds, what goes on in our consciousness, shows up in our lives, right? Are you happy about that? We're going to talk a little bit more about it. Because what we want to know is, how do we nurture our growth, right? How do we participate consciously in the flowering of our lives? But before I get to that, because we are going to talk about it, after all is the topic, I want to share with you something that I heard from somebody fairly recently. This is a gentleman who goes to our center. And he told me he loves coming here because he feels happy, he feels connected with his source when he comes here. But after he leaves, he sometimes finds himself getting caught back up in life. You know what I'm talking about? He finds that he sometimes still responds with anger or frustration, or maybe gets a little depressed, feels a little disconnected, and he says that he feels guilty about it because what he hears here is that life is wonderful, just like Joy's treatment today, that life is wonderful and everything is about joy and abundance, and you're like, yeah! And then you get out on the freeway and you're like, right? So he asked me, why am I not getting it? Why isn't it sticking? And it got me to thinking that, you know, my job really is to talk about that ideal. My job is to talk about the spiritual principle back of all things, that life is filled with possibility and potential, and that joy and happiness and prosperity and health and all those things are our divine birthright. That's my job to talk about it. It's also my job to understand and meet us at the level where we are, and then be able to lift us up. So I'm kind of on both sides. So I absolutely understand how somebody could be wondering, am I a bad person if I don't feel holy all the time? Or if I'm not loving all the time? Or am I a lost cause because I get angry, or I feel depressed, or I think bad thoughts? Anybody? Anybody willing to cop to it? So the answer is, absolutely, you are not a bad person. You are not a lost cause if sometimes you get caught up in your humanness. You know, we have that wonderful, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's fabulous, and it is that we are spiritual beings and we are having a human experience. And sometimes that human experience is maybe not as enlightened as we would like to be. I myself went through that this week. I couldn't even believe me this week. Seriously, I was like having this out-of-body experience, watching this petulant kind of bratty little thing going on, going, who is that? Oh yeah, it was me. Yeah, it was. So the key, I confess everything to you all. The key to our lifetime is experience our humanness, yes, and continue to work and grow toward that potential that I'm talking about when I'm up here on Sundays. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes it takes effort. Sometimes it takes diligence and practice to remember. The other thing that people sometimes say to me is it too late for me to start? I mean, after all, I'm 57 years old, or, blah, blah, blah. I've lived this life of humanness, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've hurt people. And I've made choices that aren't good for me. Am I a lost cause again? And the answer again, please hear me, again, is a resounding no. It is never, ever, ever too late to start, to begin, to lift our consciousness and to live more positively. Can I get an amen to that? Amen. Who's thrilled about that? Yeah. I don't care what you've done in your life. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your life experience is. You can start exactly with where you are and begin to grow and to expand and to embrace a fuller and better life. Let me share with you what Ernest Holmes said. I love this. If we are willing to start from where we are today, creating a bigger, broader, and better mental equivalent than we had yesterday, we shall progressively advance. If we start and willing to start where we are today, not where we were last week, not where we think we're supposed to be going, start right where we are today, we will advance progressively. What happens sometimes is that we get on this path, this spiritual path, and we get caught up in the stuff of life like I'm talking about, and we feel as if we've gone backwards. And we feel as if all those strides and all that work we've done have been for nothing because we lose our temper, or because, oh yeah, I must not be enlightened anymore, and I may as well go back to being the bad person that I was before because I blew it. Anybody else? Anybody? Copying to it? Okay, you guys are so good. I must be good at my job because you're not relating to this, right? Yeah. The truth is, folks, we can't become unenlightened. Oliver Wendell Holmes, not Ernest Holmes, but Oliver Wendell Holmes said, man's mind, once stretched beyond its original dimensions, can never go back. Man's mind, once stretched beyond its original dimensions, can never go back. So we can't go back to who we were before or how we were before. We can temporarily forget what we know, but we cannot backslide to the point of no return. We can always begin again, pick up those pieces and start. Just think about all you intrepid Calgarian gardeners, right? What if you said to yourself, oh, I must not be a very good gardener because I planted last year and it was good for a little while, and then winter came along and wiped everything else. Why would I even start again? Right? But you don't. On May long weekend, you go to the store and you buy the seeds and the bulbs and the veggies and the herbs and all that other kind of stuff, and you get your all together and you start over again. And that's what we need to do with the garden of our minds. To keep coming back to it and tilling and planting and weeding and growing. And if we have a temporary winter of discontent, Pat, like you did this week, you write it out and you start over again. Garden metaphors have been used by spiritual teachers forever. Jesus, the master teacher, talked about it all the time. In fact, I have a story for you. This is not Jesus' story. You know, there was the Adam and Eve. You know, people always talk about Adam and Eve in the garden, right? So there's this little boy, and he's going through the family Bible. And he comes upon a leaf that somebody's put in there, pressed into the family Bible. And he picks up and he goes, Mom, I think I found Adam's suit. Okay, so what that cracked me up. from Ernest Holmes' book called This Thing Called You. It's my favorite Holmes book. If you don't have it and you want to start reading with something that's really sweet and gentle, get this book, This Thing Called You, because he talks about the garden of our minds. And I'm going to put it up here on the screen, but you can listen with your eyes closed or you can read along with me. It doesn't matter. He says, it is important that we maintain a strict censorship over our thinking. Just as you watch your garden, that foreign seeds shall not fall into it, producing a growth of undesirable plants, so you must refuse entrance to any thoughts you do not wish to see manifested in your life. Guard well this garden of your mind. It is God's garden of your soul. It is your Garden of Eden, wherein may grow your fondest dreams and hopes, blossoming into fulfillment. Or, if you permit, the weeds of destruction, fear, and doubt will choke out the beauty of hope until despair alone remains. Watch carefully, then, this garden of your soul. Plant there only seeds of happiness, of joy, of peace, and goodwill. It may be necessary to cultivate your garden, to uproot weeds and straighten out the rows, planting new seeds, new ideas, broader visions, and deeper realizations of life. Watch your garden carefully. Guard it patiently, waiting for a new harvest. For you shall reap what you have sown. Plant love in your garden and go often into it. Sitting under the tree of life in cool, quiet communion, you will find fresh inspiration. God itself will go forth anew into creation through you. Everybody go like this. When we think of our minds as a garden, it really makes it clear that we demonstrate or that we reap what we put into it. So when we choose a teaching like this, we're beginning to plant those seeds, those affirmative seeds. We do spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, we do reading, we meditate, we come to Sunday, we take classes, and we're really carefully watching what it is that we're planting. And over time, anybody who's been here for a while, you can tell, you begin to see the fruits of your efforts. Your life takes on a shift, and you become healthier, and you become, your relationships are more loving, and your finances improve, and your creativity gets expressed. And you really get that you are reaping what you sow. It is done unto you as you believe. You're planting the positive seeds and you're getting the positive results. Have you had that experience?
Yes.
Can I have an amen?
Amen.
And sometimes, maybe it's not true for you guys, it's true for me, that no matter how much work I do, and I've been doing this work a long time, there is a particular issue that I just can't get on the other side of. Anybody? Yeah? It's like our issue. It's the one, you know? And we work and we work and we work on it. We can't seem to get on the other side of it. So let's go back to the analogy of the garden of our minds. So we're planting all these seeds and we're doing all this stuff and we're getting all these good results. But what we haven't done is weed out the old thinking that is causing us to have weeds in our garden. So we've got this beautiful garden, we've got these things that are coming up that are beautiful and colorful and fabulous, and they're surrounded by weeds and they're being choked out. So part of the work that we have to do, in addition to the planting, is the clearing, is the tilling, is the weeding out. And please understand, I'm not talking about deep therapy. I'm talking about starting to identify the self-talk that is causing the weeds. The self-talk. I'm not good enough. I'm not talented enough. I don't deserve to have what I want. We need to consciously, we don't have to go in and dig all of that stuff up. We need to be aware of it and pull them out when we become aware of them. And replace them with, I am good enough. How cool am I? I'm talented. I deserve all good. So we're taking out, we're putting back in. In addition to planting those seeds, we have to take out some of the old ones. Those old thought patterns, those old belief systems that are very, very strong because they've been around a long time. So it does. This is a bad word. It's the D word. It takes diligence. The other bad word, the E word, effort. The H word, hard work. To get rid of that stuff. Determination and discipline, more bad words. To replace the old with the new thoughts. But the result, as you know as well as I do, is absolutely worth it. Going back to the guy that I talked about earlier, who said he didn't feel like he was doing a good enough job because life sometimes shows up. I want you to think about this. How many gardeners? Raise your hand if you planted on May long weekend. Are you? All right, cool. Okay. So, did you see the results of your hard work right away? Did you plant a seed or a bulb, and did you have a plant the very, very next day? No, of course not. It's not natural. It's not how life works. Things need time to root. They need time to grow. Here's another thing Ernest Holmes said. The seed must be left in the creative soil of mind until it can mature. There is a time for sowing as well as a time for harvest. Plants must not be pulled up or interrupted in the process of their growth. And yet we do that, right? Oh, I didn't finish my quote. Plants must not be in the process of their growth. They must be watered with hope, fertilized with expectancy, and cultivated with enthusiasm, gratitude, and joyous recognition. Who loves Ernest Holmes?
I do.
We live in a world of instant gratification, and so we want to plant the seed, whether it's a physical seed to get a plant or a mental seed in the garden of our mind. We want to plant the seed and have an immediate result. At least I do. I don't know about you. At least I do. But I understand in my heart of hearts that it doesn't work that way. Seeds need time and nurturing to grow. They need to be taken care of. They don't need to be dug. Haven't you ever done that? Is it there yet? Is it there yet? And then we have to start all over again. There's a wonderful story about called the Moso bamboo tree. And I'm actually putting it up here for you because it's a good one. It says here, the Moso is a bamboo plant that grows in China and the Far East. After the Moso is planted, no visible growth occurs for up to 5 years, even the most ideal circumstances. Then, as if by magic, it suddenly begins growing at the rate of nearly 2.5 feet per day, reaching a full height of 90 feet within 6 weeks. But it's not magic. The Moso's rapid growth is due to the miles of roots it develops during those first 5 years. 5 years of getting ready. So maybe that's what's happening with our dreams and our desires. Maybe they are growing and they are manifesting, but they're still underground where we can't see them quite yet. And if we get impatient and we keep digging them up, we disrupt the process. So this is for you, but it is also for me. Sometimes I do talks because I think it's good for you. Other times I do talks because it's for me. This is one of those. Let's not be so impatient to get there. Wherever there is, we have a lifetime to get there. Maybe we're not where we want to be quite spiritually. Maybe we haven't manifested our desires quite yet. But every time you come here, and every time you hear a nugget that you take home, or you read something and you contemplate it and you think about it, every time you choose a positive over a negative thought pattern, you're planting those seeds. And those roots are growing deeper and they're growing stronger, even when you can't see them yet. Emerson says, stand guard at the portals of your mind. Holmes says, guard well the garden of your mind, because you absolutely reap what you sow. I love you, and so it is.